Hi, I'm Sally Kirkman from sallykirkman.com, and I'm here today with my fellow astrologer, Christina Rodenbeck from oxfordastrologer.com. Together we're Astrology Talk, and we're doing one of our small Astrology Talk investigates today, and it's a very topical one actually at this time of year. We're asking, were the three kings astrologers? So, Christina, maybe we need to burst into song. Not.
Maybe not. Let's save our listeners' ears. And also, the short answer is yes, they were. Next question. Obviously, they were, because what's a magi? What is a magus? Is a magician. Is a person who's looking at, that's by definition, they were astrologers. That's what they were doing. They were looking at the sky, night sky. And, it would have been very normal to have people like that in the Middle East. They're supposedly from Persia, aren't they? Is that right? They're coming from Persia?
They're coming from the East. We three kings of Orient are. I mean, it's the first line, isn't it? They're coming from the East. So, Persia.
It's the first line, but then it goes on to be wrong.
Oh, does it?
Yes, they're looking east, and actually they should be looking west if they're coming from thing.
Okay.
So it's that was just a rhyme thing for a poem, wasn't it?
Okay, a rhyme thing.
They're just making it rhyme.
The bearing gifts, there's a lot of it that tells you the story. Bearing gifts, we travel afar. They bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Most of us know that, and they're following the star of Bethlehem.
Yeah.
That's they're following the star. And do we know what star they're following and why? And can we reveal more about the astrology? Yes, we can. She says.
Well, traditionally, people often said it was probably the conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, which happens every 20 years, doesn't it?
It does.
But this one was special, I guess.
Yes. So this is, I have to say, a lot of thanks for this. Goes to Maggie Hyde, her book Jung and Astrology, because she talks quite a lot about the Star of Bethlehem in there, as did Jung. And in 7 BC, there was a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. I saw the one in December 2020. The two planets on one above the other. It was an incredible sight. And this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction didn't just happen once, it happened 3 times. So it happened 28th of May, 7 BC, 1st of October, 7 BC, 5th of December, 7 BC. And it said that Christ was probably born the following year, 6 BC. But we have to remember that these guys were on a journey. So, they were guided by this star. They were following it. And this is the symbol. And it's in Pisces, which is such a beautiful sign for these two to be in. I mean, Jupiter wants to be in Pisces. It's exalted there. It's a very religious influence, actually, in Pisces, isn't it, Jupiter? And there's this sense of the king of the gods. Jupiter and Saturn, I sometimes think as, spirit and matter as well. So it's this powerful Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that's just been guiding them throughout the year.
And it's interesting because it's there are theoretically there are great ages, zodiac ages, which are about 2,000 years, which take about 2,000 years. And the coming of Christ was pretty much the beginning of the Piscean Great Age. So there we are, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And don't forget, it does take place every 20 years. So it's a phenomenon that's unusual, but not that unusual. But in Pisces, it's important because, of course, one of the symbols of early Christianity was the fish. You would leave the sign of the fish in the dirt to say this is where we're going to preach, when it was more of an underground movement, which is to do with Christ's initials in Greek. So and of course there's the story of the loaves and the fishes. And he is a fisher of men. Um, God, Christ was a fisher of men, and he actually, some of the first people he converted were fishermen. So there is a lot of Piscean feeling, literally the fishy feeling,
Yeah,
around the New Testament and around
yeah,
the arrival of Christ.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
Walking among the, go on.
And I was just going to say, and for those people may not know, Pisces, the symbol is the two fishes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the two fishes, and this is the start of that great age of Pisces. Um, that the precession of the equinoxes as the equinox point moves slightly back through the zodiac. So this was when it was moving from Aries to Pisces, and we're now at that point, a couple of millennium later, where it's moving from Pisces to Aquarius, another shift. But also, I mean, Pisces, it's interesting because you could say that there's other themes playing out. I agree completely what you're saying about the fish symbolism, but in Christ's life there was these themes as well, weren't there, of sacrifice and redemption, which is so closely attuned to Pisces. That's the big story of Christ on the cross and then being reborn. So these signs of sacrifice and redemption.
And also
Um,
the cleansing of sin. Pisces is a sign that is actually, I mean, obviously Neptune hadn't been discovered then, but
mm,
um, Pisces and Neptune are a sign and a planet that, in my own lexicon anyway, are associated with the washing away of sin. And one of the things that is also a story in the Bible, of course, is the washing of feet. So I think, does Christ wash the beggar's feet, but also Mary Magdalene washes his feet.
yeah.
And this is an incredibly important symbolic act. And why do I bring this up? Because again, Pisces rules the feet, and is this the place of, this is our, in some way, it's the place where we touch the earth, where we kiss
Mm,
the earth with our feet when we're walking.
mm, mm, mm,
Um, and the idea, the symbolism of the washing of the feet is carried through from kings later on, when you
mm,
have, is it Maundy Thursday, when you wash the feet of the beggars,
mm,
um, symbolically at least, but actually in reality in earlier times.
mm.
And there's something also about Christ's humility that is incredibly important and completely counter to what had gone before in terms of religion, at least in the Middle East and in the West, and this side of I think Buddha's way ahead with this. But the idea that if you're the son of God, that doesn't mean you're going around with a magical gold crown smiting people. It can mean that you're turning the other cheek and that you're walking among the
Mm,
beggars and the poor.
mm,
And, you know, um, it's easier for a rich man to get into heaven. No, it's harder for rich man to get into heaven than for a camel to get through the eye of a needle, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, it's harder because actually Christ's people are the poor and the cast out. And that's
mm,
also a very Piscean
mm,
idea of compassion,
mm,
and kind of equality in the sight of spirit.
yeah, yeah. It's a lovely. I mean, I just love the fact that this was the symbol. This was the basically the Star of Bethlehem, and that they were following this. I mean, Jupiter Saturn conjunctions as well. Particularly in olden times, they were often thought about as heralding changes in the rulership of nations as well. And there's also, you can see the threads in the story of the side of Pisces that's about betrayal as well, because it's there's a dream. Herod has a dream, doesn't he, that there's going to be a new king will be born, and so he does go out, and then Herod goes out to kind of slaughter infants under two, in that awful style of bad rulers slaughtering. Um, and he's really worried that his kingship is going to be dethroned and there'll be a new king coming. And also that it comes to him in a dream, which is Pisces too. And these magi, the astrologers were often, there's a theme of prophecy. A prophecy is being foretold and it will play out. So there's so much kind of richness of symbolism behind this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Pisces that I think fits really well for what was being seen and being brought to pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these moments are really important because they are era defining, these Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions.
And also I don't know, because they change every couple of 100 years, don't they? They shift.
Mm-hmm.
They always fall in the same element. So they would have been Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces for a couple of 100 years. And I don't know whether this was the first of the water ones during this time, or maybe at the end. But the fact that it's in Pisces feels very powerful.
So do we think the Magi were astrologers?
Yes.
It's obvious, isn't it? It's like, yeah, of course they were. And it's interesting that, but I think one of the things I'd like to say actually is that astrology would have been one of the things that they did. It wasn't just astrology. They would have been engaged in magical prognostications in other ways too, probably in strategy. So they weren't just prophesying things by often, this kind of magus in those days. They would have been also, I don't know, doing mathematics or inventing things, or it was a much more these days we're all kind of, we're all siloed off, aren't we? Sally, why don't we go invent a wheel or something instead of doing this?
We're just seen as niche, and we just come in now and again and do stuff, But back in the day, this was held as a really powerful and important position, and it would have been one of many skills and talents, which of course we have, Christina, the
other in our basket of goods.
In our basket of goods. But they were really powerful and important people during this time. Okay, we're going to wrap up now, so thank you very much. Yes, they were astrologers, and we'll be back with our main monthly podcast on the 18th. See you then. Bye.
Bye.